Okay, so to start off, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement, keeping in mind that we are in Toronto. This is the land acknowledgement that was developed by the Aboriginal Education Council at our university. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And I certainly consider myself very grateful and very lucky as a settler and an immigrant to this country to be able to enjoy this land. In August 2021, the university it announced that it would begin the renaming process to reconcile the legacy of Egerton Ryerson. So just flagging that for you as an important and significant part of our process here at Ryerson. So to start us off, I'm gonna ask Mauro Chiera and Daniel Garcia to just quickly introduce themselves. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mauro Chiera. Thank you, Sam. I'm the graduate program administrator, and you'll be dealing with me for anything that is non-program academic related. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Garcia. I'm the manager of graduate programs here at the Creative School. So if you're anything graduate related, I'm happy to help you guys out, and look forward to seeing you in the programs and to see what all the stuff that, you create in the documentary media program. So a lot of fun in that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, and we'll hear a little bit later from Mauro and from Daniel, but let me just go ahead and share my screen now. Let's see, phone night, share, and present. Okay. So we're going to look at what an MFA is, give you a bit of an idea about that. We're going to look at the program, admissions, funding, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So the MFA is really considered a terminal degree. And what we mean by that is that it's really the degree that you need to practice in your discipline. The example I give is in some disciplines, the PhD is the terminal degree, and you really do need that to be able to practice in your discipline. In the fine arts, it really is the MFA. So this is why in the MFA, we have a focus on the theory and the conceptual basis of creation, but we also have the production components as well. So it's a mix of both. It's not a purely production degree. It's not a purely theoretical degree. It's a degree that will give you the best of both possible worlds in terms of understanding where your own artistic practice fits in within the bigger scope of scholarship, scholarly work, and artwork out there. There are many unique employment opportunities that you can have access to, including teaching. I know we've had students who've been interested, who've joined the program after years and sometimes decades of being in industry because they're interested in going back and teaching. Your capstone project, your project for the program actually includes 3 different components. The visual project, and that could be a film, a video, it could be a photography exhibit, it could be an installation, a multimedia project, a support paper where you talk about the conceptual and theoretical basis of the artistic decisions that you've made in creating this work. This is your chance to talk about your methodology. It's your chance to bring in the scholarship, to bring in the work of other artists, to reflect on your own production. And the degree culminates in an oral defense. That oral defense, usually it's your chance to talk about your work, but also talk about how you see the impact of your work and moving forward, what you hope to do with your art. The MFA program at Ryerson is a 2-year program, and it is full-time. It's pretty intensive program, so quite difficult to do it and do something else at the same time, because we do expect that you're doing your coursework, you're doing your production work at the same time, and you're engaging with a lot of the events and workshops that are put on throughout the program and throughout the university. So it's 24 months. That means that you're really going from September to August for both years. There isn't a break in the summer. As with a lot of graduate programs, there really is not a break in the summer. In fact, and you're going to see when I go through the outline of your 2 years, after your first year, so your fall semester, winter semester, your spring, summer semester is your production semester. So we're expecting you to actually be doing your production work so that at the start of second year, you're ready to start doing the post-production pieces. I know I'm going a little bit fast. I just want to go through these pieces and then happy to answer any questions that you might have. So the curriculum in the first year, I'm not going to go through each and every course, but basically you do have some choice of electives. You also have some set courses that are, as you see with Documentary Studies 1, for example, that's a theory-based course that looks at what is documentary, how do we understand new forms of documentary, what does that mean in terms of its link to society and the changes that we're seeing around us. What are some of the historical precedents to documentary as we understand it now? You also have a Fundamentals of Media course, and those courses are actually about your chosen discipline. And so, whereas with documentary studies, for example, both in the winter and the fall semesters, you're all together as a cohort. In the Fundamentals of Media, this is where you get to specialize. This is where you get to divide between film on one side and photography and new media on the other. Because we want you to have the opportunity to actually delve even deeper into your chosen methodologies and your chosen artwork. I want to talk a bit about the fact that production is actually integrated throughout your program. So there isn't one course where you're going to be doing that. That's going to be throughout your program until you get to the winter term where you're looking at your master's project development, for example, where you're really going to sit down and figure out, this is what my project is. This is how I'm going to set out to do it. This is the budget I need, etc. When you apply to the program, part of your application is going to look at a proposal, right? A statement of interest or a proposal. You're not tied to that proposal, but that proposal tells us and gives us an idea, first of all, about your readiness for graduate studies, but also about your area of interest. We need to know that there's a fit. I was mentioning in last week's session that we've had some stellar applicants, but they're not interested in documentary. Right? So you read their statement and there's nothing about documentary in there. And this is a really specialized degree. It's actually one of its kind in Canada that specializes and looks specifically at documentary media and documentary practice. And so we need to know that this is going to be a good fit for you as well. In the spring, summer, you do have one course that happens right at the beginning of the spring semester, so around May to early June, that will help you to finalize and fine-tune your production schedule, your production ideas. And then for the rest of the summer, we expect that this is what you'll be working on. In second year, you're going to now continue to look at your production work. You're going to go into post-production. If there are any final production pieces you need, this is really the time to do it in the fall term, because the winter term is really about pushing your work further so that it's finalized. In the spring, summer, the students put on a student-run festival known as Doc Now. It's now in its 12th or 13th year, something along those lines. And even during the pandemic, the festival did not stop. It actually just went online. And a lot of great work was produced that way. And we all learned about online platforms for screening films, for example. But Doc Now is really your opportunity to learn about how to actually put on a show, how to work with installation and exhibition venues, how to actually, book a screening space, right? So it's your chance as a cohort, because this is not really one or two people doing it. It's really the entire cohort. Some people take on the marketing and promotion aspects. Some people take on the fundraising. And some people take on the venue booking. And that usually happens in June. Last year, it happened in August just because we were trying really hard to kind of predict whether things were going to be open because of the pandemic. But the festival went on and it did happen, and usually happens in June, as I said. Now, your MRP defense also happens in June and August, so it's split. There are some students who are ready and choose to have their defense in June, and others who choose to have it in August, depending on your production work, depending on your committee, your supervisory committee. So by the end of the program, you end up with a supervisory committee that is composed of a primary supervisor and a secondary supervisor who will guide you throughout your second year of the program in the production of your work. They'll also read drafts of your support paper. They'll help you with formulating your ideas and looking at the conceptual basis of your work. They'll also help with methodological issues and methodological questions that have to do with setting up your work, let's say, in a physical space, or that have to do with, how you go about actually doing your work. And I'm happy to answer more questions a little bit later, but just quickly about the admissions. The complete applications, the date of first consideration for complete applications is January 18th. I'm gonna let Mauro talk a little bit more about any kind of more the administrative pieces, but let me just give you an idea of some of the broader pieces that are included as part of your application. So your application will include a visual portfolio, and I will talk a little bit more about that after Mauro has finished, a CV, a personal statement, and the additional academic requirements. Mauro, can you just jump in and talk a little bit about some admin requirements?
Sure. First and foremost, though, I'd like to stress the importance of what Sam just mentioned about the date of first consideration, January 18. It's, if possible, try and get your application in by that date, just because it entitles you to be eligible for all of the internal scholarships that Ryerson has. So the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, the Ontario Graduate Fellowship, and Ryerson Graduate Scholarship in itself. So it's very, very important. And obviously it's a wonderful opportunity for you. So January 18, if you can get everything in by that date, that would be, just to your benefit and to ours as well. It gives us more time to, review it and finalize our numbers and everything that we need to do to prepare for a proper and thorough review as well. And sorry, Sam, what else?
No, that's great, Mauro. That's,
okay.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. So in terms of the visual portfolio, try to be focused, right? So don't present us with everything you've done, because it's going to look like you don't have a consistent kind of cohesive portfolio that you're presenting. It's not a BFA that you're applying to a master's program. So we want to see that you've achieved that level of cohesiveness in your work. That doesn't mean that you can't work on different projects, but sometimes we have a thematic that drives our work. And this is something that you can showcase through your portfolio. Now, your portfolio if you're applying with a film under the film stream, you may want to submit like a 5-minute clip from a bigger film project that you have. If you're applying in the photo stream, 10 to 15 images, something along those lines, but make sure that they're consistent, right? So they're from one project that you've done, for example, or even 2 projects, but at least show us so that we can get a sense of your aesthetic, get a sense of the social issues you're interested in, or other types of concerns that you might have. Yes, Mauro.
Sam, I had a question from a potential applicant. Are you able to submit both photography and film portfolios?
You can. However, when you apply for the program, you usually pick your stream, right? So if you're picking your stream as photography, try to show us your photography work, because typically we try to assign those applications to photo-based faculty as much as possible. I'm just giving that as an example. The other thing is that what some people have done, and this is where your CV comes in, is for your portfolio submission, pick your best work, pick your most cohesive work, and submit that. But for your CV, nothing can stop you from putting in links, right? Put in links to all your projects if you've got those. And having been on the admission committee, I know I click on those links. My colleagues sometimes, if they have time, will click on those links. It's not a guarantee, but if the information is there, I want to know more about your work, right? So I'm gonna try to go in and look a little bit deeper if you put that in your CV. The personal statement is really your opportunity to talk to us, because we don't have interviews. So we don't have a chance to meet you. This is your chance to talk about two different things. The first is where you're at in your professional development and why this MFA is the right fit for you at this point in time. Give us a little bit about your background, a little bit about what your future interests are and how this MFA can help you with that. And also, what is it that you want to focus on? What is it that you want to study? Is it that you're interested in environmental issues? Is it that you're interested in other types of social issues? Are you doing a biography? What are you interested in working on for your major visual project? That's what we want to know in the statement as well. And like I said, it's not set in stone, so you don't have to worry that what you wrote today is going to change. Actually, I got an email yesterday or the day before from a current student who's a first-year student who asked me if she could resubmit her proposal because it's changed. I said, you don't have to do that. We hope that it has changed because that you've learned something from your courses. And she was crediting her current supervisor with helping her to develop her ideas further and to change them. And that's wonderful. That's what we want to see. But put your best foot forward, put in a really well-written proposal that talks about what your current interests are. Let's put it this way, your current interests are, and what's brought you to the program at this point in time. Oops. Here we go. Scholarships. Mauro, if you can just talk a little bit about those. I know you mentioned them, but if there's anything else you want to add.
No, of course. So thank you, Sam, of course, thank you. Yeah. As Sam mentioned, this is details the scholarships. So as you can see, some of them are, pretty, they're nice amounts, but in order to be considered for all of them, you really need to get your application in by the 18th. So by January 18th, sorry. So further to that, as you can see there, the Ryerson Graduate Fellowship, it says here that it's an academic merit-based scholarship for domestic students only. And then we also have the Ryerson Graduate Development Award, which is general program funding and plus for international students. So all of the awards really are merit-based, and we do try and give something to everyone. We're hoping to give everyone as much as we can, and we're hoping to get, outstanding students that can compete for the external scholarships, which are the OGS, Ontario Graduate Scholarship, which is for $15,000 a year. Not only is that a very nice amount, but it's also a very prestigious scholarship to obtain. It's something that you would definitely want to put on your CV, and it's quite an achievement in itself. Mm-hmm. And also, as you can see, the SSHRC, we call it the Shirk Masters. It's $17,500 per year, and that's for domestic students. I feel like we're missing. There's one more scholarship actually. It's not that we're missing it, but there is one more. Is it the Ontario Graduate Fellowship? Daniel, is that correct?
Yes. So for the internal scholarships, it will be the Ontario Graduate Fellowship. That is $12,000 also for domestic students. Okay. And all three, I just want to mention the Ryerson Graduate Fellowship, the Graduate Development Award, the Ontario Graduate Fellowship. They're all automatic applications, so you guys don't have to submit any application. It's all based on your admissions submission. So as you submit your admissions application, that's what we're going to use to be able to determine who receives which amounts for those scholarships. For the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, they're at the bottom, and for Shirk, those ones have a separate application process. For the OGS, the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, we will notify eligible applicants sometime in February or March if they want to participate in the scholarship. And then for the SSHRC, SSHRC, that one, the deadline is actually happening right now for anybody who's interested. It's December 1st is the application deadline. Now, that one, for the most part, most students apply when they're in their first year, going into their second year, based again on GPA calculations and so on. However, for you guys who are just applying to the program, if this is your first master's degree, you should take a look at the application process. You potentially could apply as long as you submit your application by December 1st, and then use the funding for your first year on the program. All right. So I would definitely encourage you. I'll put the link on the chat in a few seconds so you can take a look if you're interested in applying.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
So just to reiterate what Daniel said, you're automatically considered for the RGF, the RGDA, and the OGF, the Ontario Graduate Fellowship. So there's nothing that you need to do in order to receive those scholarships. We would contact you if you're eligible for the Ontario Graduate Scholarship.
And in addition to all those, once you are a student in the program, we have internal awards. So these are like, so for example, right now we're adjudicating the award for documentary for social justice, for example. That's a current award that we have now that we're currently looking at student submissions for. So there are other types of internal grants for travel or for production work that will come up throughout the year that you would be eligible for once you are a student. We also have, and I've had this question before, we also have graduate assistant opportunities that are available at the beginning of the year. Typically, professors will ask for a GA, a graduate assistant, for their undergraduate classes. So you'll be, you might be doing things like facilitating discussions or holding tutorials or things along those lines. And those are really great opportunities, especially if you're interested, like I said earlier, in a teaching career eventually. That concludes the formal part of the presentation. I've put out my name, Mauro's name, and email addresses if you want to take note of those. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us, and Mauro for your help today. But now I would like to open it up to everybody. I'm going to stop screen sharing just so we can all see each other. And I'm going to open it up for questions and answers.
Sam, sorry, there's one question, and sorry to all the students who were going to ask, I'm sorry to just interrupt. There is a question from one of our attendants. As an international applicant, is it possible to have an IELTS band score 6.5 instead of 7, or have the chance to be the higher score, to have a higher score later? So the initial answer would be the minimum requirement that we would need is a 7.0 for the IELTS academic. Now, yes, you would have a chance to redo the test later. So for example, between now and the time that you're formally admitted, you could submit an English test, sorry, this mentioned IELTS test, and you would have up until the time that admissions would send you a formal offer with a condition or criteria attached to it, asking you to complete a new test, an updated test with a minimum score of 7.0 on it, or as part of your admission offer. I hope that answers the question. I hope I was clear on that. If not, just write it in the chat again, or feel free to email myself or Daniel or Sam.
Thank you, Mauro. That's helpful. It just allows me to kind of build on that to say that we do look at your entire package, right? So we're not just looking at your grades. We're not just looking at whether you've met the English language requirement. We are looking at the entire package. So if you're, you come in and you've got this great great application package on all counts, but let's say you're missing one small element. What we would do is, if the admission committee feels like you have a strong potential for the program, we would ask for an exception for you. But it's not our discretion whether the exception gets approved or not. That's at the discretion of the Dean of Graduate Studies. So just to let you know, we do want the best students in the program. And sometimes that's not based on your academics, right? Sometimes it's based on, because our academics can get influenced and affected by so many other things. However, we do want you to, like I said, put the best application possible. So, and by the deadline. The reason I say that is because we do have sometimes amazing applicants who would have, under typical circumstances, been admitted, but they apply in March. We have a rolling system, right, of admissions. So we will look at their application, but they're going to get waitlisted because we've already sent out our offers. Right. I had one student who ended up being removed from a wait list and got accepted into the program, who met with me at the beginning of the year. And his question was, I just want to know why I was waitlisted. I said, it's only because you applied late. You applied in like March, right? So, you have an amazing portfolio, but we've already given out our admissions. So please apply by the deadline. That's really important. Other questions?
Just sorry.
Yeah,
No, sorry, Sydney, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
No, it's okay. If you want to finish, I can wait. No worries. Okay. So I have a question. I'm interested in applying for the video stream. Also, thank you so much. This is so helpful, this information session. I'm definitely like typing away, like, because you were answering all my questions. So my one question was, I'm interested in the video stream, and I'm at Carleton Journalism so I'm in an advanced video class, but and some of my best work has been like a 4-minute documentary. And I know that you guys are saying it's like, take like 5 minutes of a larger documentary or something. Do you think it looks like I'd be penalized for having a shorter than the 5 minutes, or should I re-edit? No? Okay.
Not at all. And the only reason I said that is because some people, all they've done is big work, like long work. But if that's what you have and that is your best work and you want to show us that, please go right ahead.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. And then one other question is, if we're applying, like I fully intend to apply by the first consideration date, how soon after will we hear if we've been admitted or not?
So the way we did this is that we waited for the applications to come in. And then once they come in, they have to be vetted through the graduate admissions office. Once they are, and that will happen kind of like, I think by end of January, something along those lines. Yep. We will look at them at the beginning of February. And then because we value your time and we want the best students possible in the program, we're going to get back to you as soon as possible, even if it's informal. So last year I was furiously writing to the top candidates to say, hey, you're going to be getting an offer, just hold off on anything else, kind of thing. So we try to do that as well. It's a very collegial program. So we think of our work with our graduate students as our peers. And so we're going to treat you in a way that really we want to welcome you into the program. And so as soon as we know, you're going to know, basically.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good to know. Sorry, I just remembered one more question I was having. Sure. I read, so you kind of said that the portfolio isn't like a huge, it's not a culmination of all your work. So to put that in your CV. So as I'm applying for the video stream, is it best to just put links to my videos, or put them on my website and then link my website, or how would you recommend doing that?
You know what? I've seen people do it in two ways, but I'll give you my personal opinion. Okay. If I go on your website, and this happened to me actually last year or the year before, if I go on your website and I click on a project and it's a broken link, for whatever reason, you moved the video's been taken down, whatever, I don't have access to it, right? If you vetted your links, right? You've looked at your links, you've vetted them, you've tried them out, and you've put them on your CV under your list of projects, then they're going to be there.
Okay, so that's the better way to do it.
You know, nothing wrong with like putting in your website and then listing your projects, because it's gonna look good for you too, right? For us to see all your projects.
Having both just for the reassurance.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for answering those questions. That's amazing.
No problem, no problem.
Sam, can I mention one thing also?
Of course.
And sorry if I'm interrupting anyone from getting a question, but perhaps this might answer your question. Another reason why it's important to get your application in by the 18th is, and Sam and Daniel can definitely attest to this, is that part of the application is going to require 2 academic references.
Yes.
And sometimes your references, your referees, the person who's going to write this letter for you is like Sam and Daniel, who is, you know, they're going to get to it right away. Sometimes your referee might be like me, where, you know, it's just not going to get done immediately, or they just have so many other letters to complete, other things to do, that they're just inundated with requests. So it's very important that you get at least the request in to your referees. The earlier, the better.
Yeah.
And because that will hold up your application, unfortunately. We can't review an application until it's entirely complete. So this is something that you could prevent just by simply staying, in communication with your referee. Sometimes what happens is on your application, you will write, as your referee, you will just put, so-and-so. And then what we do is we contact them, but sometimes our email goes to their spam folder. So they may or may not check there. So it's up to you, as always, to follow up with your referee, and as well to make sure that your application and the entire process is going smoothly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really important point, Mauro. Thank you for mentioning that. We did have that a couple of times. The thing is, it's not us who say, oh, well, your file's not complete, we can't look at it. It's not that at all. It's just the graduate admissions office has a checklist, right? They want to make sure they're forwarding to us the complete file. If it's not complete, we're not seeing it, right? So make sure that it is complete, and you can do that by beginning to get all those pieces now. There was a question in here about the photos from Mary. The photos should be represented as a PDF file. You can do that. Actually, it saves us from having to, click on a link, go to your website, look at the pictures there. You can do it that way as well, but it's better if you can put them together for us, put them with a list of photos. And the one thing that I really always appreciate is a small statement about what that work is, right? So it helps me contextualize what it is that I'm looking at. So I'm not just looking at pictures, I'm looking at a project of some sort, and I want to know a little bit about the context and background. Even if it's something you just copy paste from your website and put as an intro to that portfolio, that's fine as well.
If you don't mind, I just want to say something about that. In the application process and the application submission system, you can only upload PDFs. So everything that you put in there will have to be a PDF. So I arrange it like Samantha mentioned, explain different ways, however you want to do it, but it has to be uploaded as a PDF. If you're submitting videos, for example, you won't be able to submit a video. You'll have to submit the PDF with the link, either like Samantha explained or some other way, but everything that goes on the system is PDF. So make sure you make a note of that. And then the other thing to mention is, once you have the link, once you get the email from Ryerson saying, thank you for your application, here's how you upload your documents, in that same portal, you'll be able to check the status of your application. So we were talking about like, oh, maybe the reference letter hasn't come in, maybe it has. When you log in and you go to the portal, you'll be able to actually check what's missing. So then you can follow up with your referees or maybe with your transcript or whatever is missing to make sure that your application is complete, so we can actually go ahead and start reviewing.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, that's what people have been doing, is they put a link inside, like they have a Word document that they turn into a PDF, and in that Word document, there's a link. But you can do that as well, or you can do it this way. Could you mention the deadline again? Yeah, January 18th. Great. Howard or Bridget, you both had questions, I think. Bridget.
I think so much. But Bridget can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for the time. I have a question regarding portfolio materials. I'm a working photographer, and the reason why I'm interested in this program is the video stream of it. My stills work is obviously much stronger than my video work. I guess what would you recommend me putting forward? Video work that's—
Put forward your photo work. Okay. Put forward your photo work, but in your statement, tell us why, or not why, but how that's led you to wanting to develop more into video. Kind of like, you know, where you've been and where you're headed, and totally fine. Yes, but you're right. Like the stills are going to be more your stronger work, right? Because you want to learn more about video in this program. Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Howard.
Yes, thanks. Can our references, is it limited to just educate to teachers and educators, or can it be from like other practitioners in arts or curators?
We like to receive a mix, right? So if if you have references from people who are familiar with your work, for example, who are, like you say, curators or other practitioners, other artists in the community, that's totally fine to submit those. But keep in mind that because it is a graduate program, we're also looking at your strength in terms of being a potential student. Because that is the focus of the program as an educational institution. So we would value hearing about your preparedness for graduate studies. And that's really like part of it, because of a lot of the academic requirements of the program. You know, an educator would be able to answer those types of questions, because we're not just doing production work, for example, right?
Right. So can that be from like a past professor? Like okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It can be from a past professor. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Other questions? Are you excited about applying to the program? Good. Okay, good. We're hoping to generate excitement. Okay, which was great, but I found my work less powerful than my other. I mean, it's better to have a more, okay. Yeah, I mean, you pick the project that you're going to be. I'm just looking at chat in case you're wondering why I'm kind of looking and half reading, half not. It's your choice which project you put forward. It could be a project you did 5 years ago, or a project you did last week. It could be a student project that you did, or a project you did for pay. It doesn't matter to us. We want to see how you present yourself and what you feel is your strong work. So just feel free to submit what you think is going to represent more your vision at this point in time. Great.
Sam, I had a question from a student who was not able to make it. And the question is,
no problem.
What are the expectations from students in this program?
Okay. All right. It's a bit general, but I think I get the gist. So let me just try to answer that. So the expectation is that it is a full-time program. So we're expecting that you are going to be doing the academic pieces that have to do with your writing, your research, you're developing your proposal, all of that, but also expecting you doing the production pieces as well. There's also the expectation that some of the background you may not have, like you may not be, you know, you may want to be doing photography, but it's really your first try at it. But you have an artistic vision, you've been accepted into the program, so clearly we see your promise for being in the program. You know, you have to learn Photoshop on your own, right? We're not going to offer you a Photoshop, for example. I'm just giving Photoshop as an example. We're not going to give you a course on that. So the expectation is, as a graduate student, and it's the same for any other graduate program, you're going to have to do your own research and development of skills and development of knowledge that is relevant to your specific area of interest. Same goes with your topics. Like somebody throw out a topic. What is the topic of interest that you might have? Anybody? Nobody? I don't want to keep using the same examples that I have in my head.
Use it.
Use the same examples I have in
Yes.
my head. Okay, well, all right. I have this year, I was mentioning actually last week, we have like 3 or 4 people doing music documentaries. So documentaries about the music industry or about musicians. Our program is not designed to focus on a specific subject matter. That's your job. That's our expectation of you as a graduate student, is that you're going to go back, look at the history for that musician or for that music era or whatever it is you're focusing on. You're going to do that research. You're going to read those references. You might talk to people. You might go visit studios, whatever it might be, to give you that background. It's not a program where you just sit in class, you get lectured at, and if you do well on an exam, you're done, right? Like, it's not that at all, because it is about your work. You're now becoming, if you're not already, right? I don't want to make that assumption, a producer, a creative producer of your work, right? Like, you are going to be producing something that is unique to you and your vision. That's going to require you to do all the background research and all of the supporting material to be able to produce that work. Well, I'm not sure if I've answered that question, but those are some of the expectations, like show up to classes, obviously, right?
I thought the answer was detailed and concise. I'm hoping that the student will find it as well. I thought you covered everything. Good. There is a new question as well.
Yeah, I see that. International students, unfortunately, don't get higher tuition rates in Canada, as you know, so higher than domestic students. We understand that is quite a bit of a burden financially. The funding that we have, we can't distinguish between the domestic and the international in terms of the funds, because we get allocated a bunch of funds. We have to distribute them, we try to make sure that every student gets something. We don't personally have those funds in the program, but as we mentioned earlier, there are those scholarships that are entrance type scholarships that you would have access to. I would also suggest you talk to the Office for International Students at Ryerson in case they have other resources that might be helpful. Daniel.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So like Samantha mentioned, the program will have some funds to be able to support both domestic and international, but as you mentioned, they're somewhat limited in that sense. There are, and we'll put some links in the chat in a second, but there's some scholarships in the Graduate Studies website as well. There's a big list of scholarships there that you should definitely check out. Again, some of them will apply to international, some apply with domestic, some were both. Some will based on academic backgrounds or previous studies, things like that. So the thing with that website is it's the best sort of a list that we have where all the universities sort of sponsor scholarships. So you should definitely check those out. Now, aside from that, from my experience, I've seen a lot of international students, the way they manage to go through the degree is not just basing it on one scholarship or two scholarships. You have to sort of try to diversify as much as you can. So that basically means applying to every scholarship you can, finding maybe TA, GA positions, research assistant positions, applying to career boost job postings, which is basically just other employment opportunities within the university. Depending on how you apply for your study permit or your visa, a lot of the times it gives you the option of finding jobs outside of campus as well, right? So sometimes you have to balance all those different options to be able to make it work. Same with things like student loans. So in Canada, we have OSAP. In Ontario, we have OSAP as student loans. Other countries have different ways of lending, in some cases for student loans. If not, maybe banking institutions and things like that will also help. It is, like Samantha mentioned, it is a hard sort of reality that unfortunately we don't have funds to be able to cover everybody's tuition, which would be ideal, it would be great. But unfortunately, we have to sort of rely on these different areas, different pieces of the puzzle to be able to complete a full funding package. I think the important thing is anytime you're sort of in a situation where you're trying to figure out where to get funds, where to find it, you can find them, reach out to any of us, and we're happy to try to point you in the right direction. We'll try to point you to the right website, at least as much as we know. We'll share the information with you guys, of course, right? And I also want to say, Google is also your best friend. We have seen this happen actually in the documentary media program a couple of years ago. A student got, I think, like $10,000 or $5,000 from Nikon from a contest, in a photography contest that he participated in, and it basically helped pay for his project, right? So there's all these different things that you should definitely, just because the school does enough for it and puts it right in there for you, there's all these other ways that I've seen a lot of really creative solutions from the students over the years to just try to fund things. And again, searching online, again, based on your background, academic background, social background, things like that will definitely help. And then that being said, of course, we are aware of sort of the situation. We are always working in the faculty to try to get more funds for both domestic and international. But obviously that takes some time. And if there is any funds, we usually try to notify you usually via email for any scholarships that are coming up and stuff like that as well, that are more like program based or more specific. We'll send emails to students about that. So hope that helps a little bit too.
Thank you, Daniel. Sydney.
You mentioned the like TA and GA positions. When do the applications for that like go up, or like would that be, am I applying to that while I'm applying to the master's, or am I applying after once I've gotten in?
Yeah, so once you've gotten in, usually around September, like maybe second week of September, I might send out a list of all of the different professors who are looking for GA opportunities or who are looking for GAs. There's also a link on the careers website at Ryerson for all of the different courses that are looking for GAs, because they have to be posted. So you're not restricted to just the School of Image Arts. You can actually look elsewhere on campus for different GA opportunities. There's also, like Daniel mentioned, different opportunities to work at different places, like the library, for example, or student services or whatever, to get paid employment that way as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Daniel. I see you're putting in all of the different links. That's great. Any final questions? Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you, Mauro. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. Very helpful. Everybody can learn from them. For those of you who came in a little bit later, you may not have gotten my email, so I'm just going to put it back in chat. If you have any other questions that come up for you, feel free to get in touch, and I'm happy to answer them. And good luck with your applications. We do hope you apply, and that we will see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks,
have a
Sam.
great evening.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The Creative School.